Okay, so recently Virginia and I did a video talking about spot pricing, and I alluded to the fact that there was more important considerations than focusing on price. Now, I also recently did a video driving in the car where I expanded upon that and talked about savings and liquidity. So what I'd like to do is we talk about this stuff constantly, Virginia and I, all the time. It's our life, what we do. So what I want to do is capture some of that in real time, some of these raw conversations I have, because often we'll have these conversations, right, hon? And we'll say, man, we should have recorded that. Like, people need to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to find that in the bullion industry, people get hung up on certain things, and they tend to get so myopic and so focused on that they're missing the bigger picture. You see that too?
Sure. Yeah.
What's one of the biggest things you see people get hung up on?
Is this 4 nines?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, let's address that 3 nines, 4 nines thing. I wish I actually had something to draw on the screen here right now, because, well, I'll just say it out loud. How many different ways have you seen the 999 thing expressed? I've seen 999.9, 99.99,
yeah,
4 nines, 3 nines. I don't know. I've seen it expressed so many different ways. I've seen it expressed as fine silver, which is legitimate. So the question is, which one of these is correct? Mm-hmm. And why is it important? Like, I've literally heard people say, you got to buy 4 nines gold and silver. Why? Right? Why? So I put it this way to people: purity. Okay, obviously we don't want to buy bullion that is 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper, because that's sterling. We're dealing with bullion here. So above 0.995 is considered bullion. So anywhere beyond that, what does it really matter if there's a thousandths of a percent of some trace metal or silica or graphite or something that's an impurity in there? For all we know, the impurity could be gold, which is actually worth more. My point is, it's nitpicking, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Isn't this 4 nines, 3 nines thing really nitpicking when you break it down? But so why do people get focused on that? And the truth of the matter is, I believe silver and gold, buying it is so simple that psychologically people feel like there's something missing in the process. Like everything that we do financially, typically if you buy a house or buy a car or anything, there's documents to sign and official people to talk to and meetings and all kinds of this. So there's a process involved. And when you remove that process, I find people feel like the sense of, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So where there's not complexity, I have this theory that people tend to add it because they expect it. You get that? You get that sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
You see it on people. They do their first transaction and they stand there frozen, kind of like, now what? That's it. Yeah. I can go. Do I need to sign something to get out of here? Right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you're paying attention and watching people closely enough, and you start questioning, like, what's going on here? Why are people acting this way? And at first I didn't recognize what I was seeing. And now I'm starting to clue in and go, these people feel like there's, so my point is circling back to this 3 nines, 4 nines thing. It's just another layer of complexity. People don't know how to feel about buying gold and silver. Even after they buy it and take it home, I'm sure they're, now what, right? So they tend to focus and add in talking points to make themselves feel more like involved, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's just human nature, I guess, what we're dealing with. But it is important to look at this, because again, if you make the 3 nines, 4 nines thing the center of your focus of buying or purchasing silver, you're going to miss out on, like in the last video, I talked about how important liquidity is. And yeah, that's sort of high finance talk, liquidity and stuff. But why isn't liquidity important in the average household's finances? It is, in my opinion, but nobody ever stops and thinks about it. At least not strategically. They don't intentionally think, well, we need to be concerned about our liquidity in our household.
Yes.
Like the ability to access capital to solve problems is what it is, right? And so these are much bigger issues, but they're not talked about, and it's not the domain of the working class people to talk about liquidity. But we probably should. I mean, you're not a big corporation doing all this high finance, but your money and your financial life is as important to you as anybody else's is to them. So I think we need to start to bring some of these tools and ways of thinking into our wheelhouse as working class and middle class people, and start taking ourselves and our financial positions more seriously.
Yeah, and you can cash really fast. You can cash that in real fast in a store, but now you have a third party to deal with when you have metals. So it makes it harder to spend. You've got to think about it more. You've got to take more responsibility and go, do I really want to cash this silver in? What's it at today? I might lose a little bit. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a mechanism.
Yeah, strategically, like I've said this about savings in my whole life. I have pretty good control over my spending. I'm very frugal about what I spend money on. I often say if I spend more, I kind of have a rule. If I spend more than $500 on something, I spend some time thinking about, do I really need, want, can I delay this? Is there a substitute? Can I get it used? Right. So, but even at that, I mean, I'm constantly seeing things out of the corner of my eye that I want, and have to put the blinders on and resist going there. And knowing that that is a personal failing in myself, I take steps. Like I said, if I had life to do over again, I'd take every excess dollar I had and put it in precious metals just to keep it away from myself, so I don't spend it, if nothing else. Right.
Yeah. It's harder to spend. You've got to think about this more. You've got to drive to this location and cash it in. And yeah. So it just puts it at arm's length, causes you to, again, take yourself more seriously. Like, can I borrow this? Can I do without it? Is there a substitute? Is there a workaround? Is there something else I can sell? Do I have to do this at all? Like, all these considerations should be put on the table instead of just acting. And, credit cards and plastic debit cards and stuff are far too easy just to access money. And because we all want to solve our problems as quickly as possible too. So sometimes we'll just take the short method, which, in the long or medium term might not be our best choice. So buying silver, buying gold puts things at a distance, at least. Yeah. And circling back to the 4 9s versus 3 9s, I mean, if you're going to use that medically, sure, you'd want the 4 9s, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like getting back to the whole purity thing. No.
Bullion buy.
Yeah, which begs the question is, as soon as this subject comes up, I say, okay, we're dealing with purity here. So in a general sense, taking bullion out of the equation, when and why are we ever concerned about purity? Well, obviously we want to get what the label says. We don't want to buy Coca-Cola and have it half water. So that's the extreme version of we want it to be what it says it is in its purest form. But when you're getting into like 0.9999, you're getting into like thousandths and tens of a percent of impurities.
Yeah.
Like we're crossing into the territory of, for lack of a better word, nitpicking, right? It's just complete nitpicking in this context. Like, you're not eating the silver, so you're not worried about it being toxic. Right. It's as pure as it possibly can be given the circumstances. So how much more pure? Like, the fact of the matter is, you're going to buy this stuff, you're going to hold on to it, and most likely give it back to a bullion dealer for cash. So where does purity factor into that? As long as we agree it's pure enough for that transaction, what more do you need, right? So for me, that's just another way to get focused on the wrong thing and miss the big picture. That's all. It's really not for us that we get, irritated at this conversation or anything at the people. It's more just the concept that it's out there. It's just annoying that it's a thing that's out there that people feel they need to latch onto. And this is what we're trying to, not do. Get people's focus where it should be.
It's so simple.
Again, back to that.
We're so simple. So we're, if we feel like people are trying to make it more complicated than it is. And what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And it's such little inconsequential questions.
Yeah, I mean, to me, silver and gold are a tool in your financial kit that you bring into your wheelhouse. And the more important consideration goes beyond that. It goes, well, how does this fit into, like, I've got some real estate and I got a business and I've got some gold and silver and some whatever other assets. How that all works synergistically together in your life is far more important than 3 nines, 4 nines, you know, in your metals. I mean, so this, I just like to get people's focus off these things that are peripheral and not really important, to try to help them. It's not to help us, but to help people, right?
Yeah, you got 3 nines out there. There's a lot of different mints make just 3 nines, and it's beautiful, perfect metals. It's beautiful, perfect.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with it. We sell it, we buy it back, you know?
Yeah, that's really all you need to know. I mean, yeah, if you want to argue that subject matter on its own for whatever reason, that's one thing. But what does that got to do with your financial life? Nothing, in my opinion.
Right?
So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's enough on that subject. I think we beat that horse enough. And but there, we'll talk more about, you know, prioritizing and all these different things. Like I said, we have these conversations all the time when the mic isn't on and the video camera isn't on, and we think, man, we should have captured that. Like, people could get a lot out of that. Sometimes we have our own epiphanies and realize certain things. So we're going to do more of these kind of just open conversations and see where they go. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day.